Hello, hello. I am so happy to be here with you today, and one of the first things that I want to say before I forget is, and I didn't grab my headphones. Sometimes I do this let me grab this really fast while people are joining. I'm still in my beautiful Bali place that I am just loving, as you can see. I actually was in another place and now I'm back in this place, so I'm just so obsessed with this place that I'm in. I love it so much. And I'm very, very excited today to get my headphone piece that I'm looking for, to talk to you about manifesting, and essentially when we are putting our order into the universe and we're calling in our desires, and what happens when we get what we want, when it shows up. And for many of you, one more thing. Okay, we're going without it and hopefully the audio is okay. All right, so for many of you guys who are on the path of manifesting what you want, or you're setting out there on these big goals, with any luck and with some refined manifesting skills, you actually start manifesting the things that you want. And when that happens, there's this moment. I have become a pretty powerful manifester in my life, and this is what I definitely work on and support my clients with. I don't always use this word, but there's massive power in intention. And a lot of times when you step in and work with a coach, that's a big part of it, is that you have actually stated very clearly, and we work really a lot on clarifying their vision. And so when you have that intention, when you have a clear vision, when you have called in support, you would have invested in support, there are some just awesome stuff that starts to happen. And in fact, a lot of people, when they first even start working with me, or even when they first start booking a call with me, there's stuff that starts flowing in and starts coming in and showing up in their lives, like new clients, or money all of a sudden starts coming towards them, and new opportunities. And so it's really exciting and fertile. So before I forget, the thing I wanted to say at the beginning before I got off on my look for my microphone track is, I want to invite you guys to, if you are interested in these conversations, I'm going to be shifting a lot more over to my Facebook group. I'd like to just be able to have more intimate conversations. So I love doing these weekly Facebook lives, but I'm not really wanting to throw a lot of money at Facebook, and in order for you guys to see them and really for you to be in the group is where it's at. So I'll put a link in the comments. It's the Badass Activators and Conscious Creators group. So if you are on this path of consciously creating in your life, and you're a badass that's making it happen, and you have these gifts coming through you, or you're in a business, a heart-centered business that's wanting to grow, please join that group, and that will be the safe space. We'll continue to grow and support you. So back to manifesting. So one of the things that I often will see, and when we are in this, so I want to give you actually just a basic framework of what I work with my clients, and essentially this, it's kind of like the arc and the process of manifesting your desires and placing this intention. So I'm not sure which one will be the up and to the right from your view, but essentially there is 3 levels that I work, that I see. And one is that we can be in this survival mode. And so sometimes there are, I'm sure you've felt it at times in your life, whether you're there now or not, which is essentially looking at this survival mode. When you're in survival mode, you're in total fight or flight. You're in really root chakra. And so it's and that time is really volatile. So in order, big thing that I do immediately is try to just get people up to stability and sustainability. So stability and sustainability, all of a sudden so much opens, and that gap is so much smaller than you think. Likewise, once you're up at stability and sustainability, the gap to then go to thriving is smaller than you think. It's really, really interesting, and I have a whole program coming out on this, so be sure to join the Facebook group so you'll hear about that. So just essentially looking at how when we have these intentions and we're manifesting things, we get to kind of go up in this arc. And what happens though so often is that I see happen all the time is this upper limit problem. And my teacher Gay Hendricks, who I've done all my studying with, this is really kind of in your zone of genius, and as you're traveling up in your zone of genius and doing more work in this way and kind of creating the life that you're wanting to call in, creating the business that you actually want to be doing that's really from your heart and is spirit-led or is really aligned with how you're wanting to show up in the world, then on that path you are being called, right? There's these learning edges that you're being called to lean into and step into. And in that process, you may have these clear intentions, you may create this clear vision, and then all of a sudden, like, you'll get what you want. You get the clients, you get the man you've been calling in, you get the money you've been calling in, whatever that is. And when that happens, all of a sudden you're in a place where now, like, okay, you've gotten good at being the person who wants it. You've gotten good at being the person who wants to bring this in or who is wishing for it and dreaming for it. Like, that's the identity sometimes that you've put on, is the person who wants it or the person who's striving for it or hustling. But all of a sudden you get to that place, you have the thing that you want, whether it's the money, the man, the clients, the business, and you're now at this new level. And what often happens, and I see it all the time, is that we upper limit ourselves, which is, another way to say we self-sabotage ourselves. We actually take ourselves back. When we get to this place, we're like, I don't know if I can be this person that I'm supposed to be in this. I don't know how. Like, it actually calls upon more in you, right? It calls upon this greater leadership, or in the instance, say, of like, a new relationship in your life. If you've not had a relationship and you've been calling that in, and this could even be in the client relationship, right? So it's relationships of any time. These are like big catalysts for change and having us look at ourselves, is all of a sudden who you are called to be in that relationship, whether it be with a client or with this new person, that then all of your old stuff gets to be able to be at play there. And so sometimes it was probably a lot easier not having that relationship. You knew how to take care of yourself on your own. You knew how to be the person who was striving and hustling. You kind of almost like probably finally got good at it, right? Finally got good at the searching and looking, hence why it actually like finally, clicked to the other side and you got what you wanted. But once you're there, how can you stay in it, right? How can you expand? So this is, in 2014, I created a program called Momentum and Abundant Expansion. And it was exactly based off of this premise, which continues to be a really big theme in my work, because there's this time where we do all this work to create this momentum. We've been rolling the snowball. We've been putting it out there. We've been manifesting it. And then when it comes, there's this time, it literally just is, however you experience it. I know for me, it's been something that's been in my body. So in this case, like in 2014, my business was just exploding, just taking off. I was traveling all around the country doing keynote speaking. I had more clients and thankfully had this team. So I started growing my team. I was literally throwing money at my team as fast as possible because I had all these great client projects coming in. And so I was able to do more work, take on more work, be more of who I was, because I was bringing on these team members. So everything was expanding. I fell madly in love. I ended up moving halfway around the world at that time. And all this expansion was happening. And I remember in that time having this feeling of like, I don't know if I can handle it. I remember feeling in my physical body very, scared that I could literally handle all this joy, all this bliss. And so I had done, some of you guys have heard me talk about this, I mastered like the laugh cry, which was totally, laughter and crying is both like a form of expansion. So I had had to like laugh cry, which it was like this, the crazy laugh cry is what I called it, because it was just this, I had to let it out. I had to have this expansion be, and the peace that I realized, just be what it was, because the peace that I realized is that there was no handling it. It was actually all about letting go. And I had to shed these skins of who I was that were no longer serving me, the identities that were no longer serving me. And so this is a lot of the work that I do with my clients, is that often you are in this place where you're wanting to step into a new realm of service or of relationship or what have you. And there are these old identities of you that you are still wearing. And it takes a lot of courage to be able to like peel those off and step into this next being that you are. So I've had this many times, but I just notice it so well now that I recently had a situation where I had been calling something into my life and I got it. And this happens all the time, but this one was like particularly like, whoa, you put an order into the universe and like, watch out, because you will get what you ask for. And watch out in a very, very good way. But it was really fascinating to watch and to witness, and this is kind of what I'm speaking to today, which is like to watch and witness who I had the opportunity then of stepping in and being in that role. Like here I had been calling it in, but you don't know the actual flavor, you don't know the specifics of it, and in particular potentially the challenges or just the unique scenario that's going to then come up. It's there's a saying that's like new level, new devil, and whether like you use that phrase or not, I should probably create another one, but it's like a really astute example in the sense that you get to this new level, you expand into this new space, and then you're called from that new space to become or even utilize, put to work all that you've been learning. It's kind of like going and doing like leadership training, and you can have all the training or going to school, but that you're really not going to learn until you're in it. And you have the opportunity then of utilizing all you know about how you could show up and actually utilizing that and being that person, showing up as that. And this is where really you're put to the test of peeling off all these old layers, all these behavior patterns that you have been, that maybe didn't work in the last relationship or didn't work with the last client. A lot of them are around, it's how you're showing up, right? Or not showing up, for that matter. So there's big pieces of this which are really a lot around boundaries and around expectations. This is all work that I walk my clients through. So here I am a business coach, and I've been speaking to this a lot lately, which is that I am a business coach, but so much of the work that I do is about your relationship with yourself and you at the individual of your business, because that's where everything stems from, your relationship with yourself and your ability then to act on behalf of yourself, of your big ideas, of your boundaries, how you're creating space, how you're creating structure even for your ideas to come through. And so we're in these new relationships, whether it's with a client or a partner, or even our own relationship with money, and that energetic exchange, the responsibility that we have to take for ourselves, and also then the exchange, the generosity and the giving, the presence of being with yourself and with another, or with yourself and with this new program or situation that you've created for yourself, right? So there's a lot of different pieces here, but something I really most importantly really want to bring to your awareness is just acknowledging this tendency to go back to what we know, to go back to our comfort zone where it's easier, or that we know and recognize ourselves. And so a really compassionate piece that you can bring in, just a really compassionate self-talk that you can do with yourself, is when you're noticing that you are at this new level. So you're like, holy cow, I've called it in, it is here, this is happening. And you can, at first it's like a total high, right? You're not even thinking anything can go wrong because it's so amazing. And here's actually where you need to be remembering these, like, actually it's like your core rooted, grounded, foundational pieces of which can become back to your values. So this is like your aligning pieces. I call this kind of your guiding compass, right? Which is, what do you need to stay grounded, to stay aligned? What are the values? What are the what are your priorities in your life, so that you're not all of a sudden out of the sake of taking care of this new client or this new person or this new program that you've created, whatever that is, right? Like a new job, like there might be this, like you want so much for it to keep happening because you finally manifested it and you finally created it, and making sure that you're not all of a sudden sidestepping your own boundaries or not taking care of yourself, where it leads into overgiving or whatever that may be, because all of that is actually where you were. It's what I call the hamster wheel of not enough. So back when you didn't have what you wanted, you were probably on this hamster wheel of not enough, and then you finally get what you want, and we go back to what we know, which can be playing out the same scenario of not enough at this new level, which either kicks us back down, and I'm kind of doing this because I want you to see it as this spiral, not as like this level that you have to jump, but recognizing that it's kind of this spiral. So sometimes we go back a little bit and then we go back up again, but just really recognizing how you need to be so centered in your values and your own knowing of like what's important. And some of that might feel like a risk to this new thing. There's like these new, it's all attachment. It's really fascinating. I was talking about this with a friend the other day, right? It's all of our attachment. And so when we get what we want and we want to hold on so tight, instead of, and this is a big piece that I work on with my clients, which is like just reveling in the abundance and in the allowing, but also not abandoning what is true for you. And this is, again, like why my work is all about coming into relationship with yourself, because the stronger that relationship with yourself is, the stronger that in that new scenario, in this new level, you've manifested something into your life, whether it be a new client or new partner, and that as you're tested, these your boundaries or what you're here to give are tested. This is where you have to be brave and courageous and clear enough to say, that's not something I'm willing to do. Or, know when you need to take the energetic space or the physical space, that you don't have to stay so holding on to it in order to not lose it. Just kind of like really knowing this dance that is happening once you create it, so that you don't go back into what you had created before. There's another piece that I want to just add here, which is around like power and control and feeling like you've got it together, and vulnerability. So when you get to this new level and you've called in, you've put your order into the universe, and it's come to you, and it's like right there in front of you, and it's blowing your mind, and it's blissing you out, or whatever that is, and you're so excited, and you're celebrating, and you're loving it. There's a point, like I said, right, when you all of a sudden get to this learning edge. So you get in it, and then you might go through this sweet little honeymoon phase of celebrating, and that's so awesome. And then all of a sudden it hits its first, like, the other shoe drops, right? Or like something happens to where you now are like, okay, I'm at this new level, and now I'm being like called to really show up in this certain way for myself or for this person, or for this scenario, if it's like a program or a role that you're needing to fill, right? And this learning edge it means that you're not feeling like at your fullest capacity. You're probably having several things in here which you're just like totally lit up, like, yes, I was born for this, right? And then you're gonna have a few things that are like, I don't know how to do this, or this is edgy for me, or I'm feeling like I want to learn this, but it feels really scary. And you're put against this learning edge that actually shows you parts of yourself you may not want to see, and it shows you parts of yourself that you need to work on, and it shows you parts of yourself that may be like more of your weaknesses versus your strengths, or parts of you that still have yet to grow, right? So I always joke that there's that I am someone who doesn't like to do stuff that I don't kick ass at, because I'm used to kicking ass at a lot of things. So sometimes I'll do something that I'm just not so good at, and I'm like, meh, I don't really want to do that. Like, I like doing things that I just feel like kick ass at. And so that's kind of this same learning edge here, is you all of a sudden get to this place where you're like, I'm not good at this. Like, I don't think I want to do this. This doesn't feel good. You're not feeling like a badass. You're not feeling like you're kicking ass at it. You feel like you're kind of maybe failing, or it's all of a sudden sends you into this like, I don't know how to do this. And so you're feeling not your most empowered self, because it feels vulnerable. It feels vulnerable to not be at your best and not feel like you're kicking ass and doing great, right? In this moment, this is like the really powerful thing, is number one, being able to be really compassionate with yourself, allowing yourself to not have to be perfect or amazing in that time, and recognizing this piece around like power and control, that vulnerability, right? When things just all of a sudden feel really messy, really vulnerable. Like, I've had this thought this week, which is like, God, being vulnerable is so vulnerable, right? Being vulnerable is so vulnerable. It makes you feel like your heart is, there's a beautiful, my friend Yana shared this with me once, where it was like, love is like, having your heart open and just saying, shoot me. And just being so vulnerable that you're open to, it's like worth it so much for you that you're willing to just be like shot in the heart, and just really like exposed and showing it. And yet it can feel so scary. And so we want to go back into our old ways of like control and power and having it together, which helps us feel like more on top of it and more safe, right? So really watching where your own safety mechanisms come in, where your own defense mechanisms come in. And this can be, and I want to point this out in this, which is that this can also be your tendency to overgive and sidestep your own needs. If you were raised in a family where you sidestepped your own needs, or you had to not listen to yours, or you had to give, that actually your way of getting back in control or trying to establish a safe place might actually be in abandoning yourself versus the other person. So sometimes, and this is again like attachment stuff. It's fascinating. I know I'm a business coach, but it literally comes back to how much we're willing to be with, like, or how much are we abandoning ourselves essentially to take care of our clients or take care of our business or whatever, not listen to ourselves. And this is where self-care is like finally come in and people are recognizing how important it is. Or how much do we actually then abandon our clients or the work, or, we ghost on, and this is like all the people who you ever may have hired who go MIA all of a sudden. And then you're like, what the heck? And it's because their self-sabotage is like, I can't handle this, and they end up pushing people away or hermiting or getting depressed and blocking people out. And then there's the other version, which is actually like overgiving and doing so much. And both of these are abandoning the self in some way, or some maybe, you're taking care of yourself in the best way you know how, but the piece I want to come back to is in terms of in alignment with what you're trying to create and recognizing that there's some vulnerable stuff. And one of the pieces that I think is so powerful for us and the work that I do when I am helping my clients get into relationship with themselves, the communication that you can have with yourself and this understanding and your own awareness when this comes up can help you. It's essentially like self-coaching. You start getting really good at going, oh, That's what's happening here. And you have such a compassionate tone and understanding tone with the process and the situation that this is what's going to allow you to not unconsciously self-sabotage and upper limit yourself and have things explode, but instead you can say, gosh, I'm really noticing that this is feeling super vulnerable for me right now. Or you can say, I'm noticing that I've really been working so hard and I'm needing to take a step back for a little bit. Or you can reset expectations. This is a big thing I do helping clients with, which is especially in business with client projects or scope creep or what have you. Oftentimes they need to have the tough conversation that resets expectations of what's going on. You have more information now, right? Similar to a relationship, you can be like in this beginning beautiful time, and then a couple days in or a week in or a couple months in, you've got new information. So you need to have like a reset conversation or reset expectations, or with this new knowledge really coming in and having a talk about it, right? And just saying, here's what I'm noticing. And this doesn't have to be, again, kind of breaking out of this mold of perfection, of control, of power. It doesn't have to be black and white. And actually, this is a big piece, is really acknowledging and recognizing that things can be a both and that we really at any one time are always holding these two pieces. And so you can actually presence both of these at the same time. You can say, gosh, I'm really noticing that I'm just absolutely loving this, and I'm also noticing that I could use some space, or whatever that is, right? I'm really noticing that this is like totally working and I'm loving it, and I'm also noticing that how we set this project up in the beginning is not going to be sustainable for me in the long run. And you're really recognizing the whole time that all of these things are a win-win, right? That's ultimately what you're wanting to do, is you're wanting to both be able to have this work and feel good at the same time, right? You're wanting to create this alignment, this win-win with this new situation and this new opportunity or level that you've gotten yourself to, this sweet gift that the universe has finally given you, and you want to make sure you can stay there, let alone like create and manifest more. So hopefully that has been helpful. I'm feeling complete with what I wanted to share. I would love to hear any insights, any questions, any resonating pieces. Again, I'm going to put in the comments the link to the group, Badass Activators and Conscious Creators. And if you're called to join that, please do. You'll have a few questions you can fill out. I'm really very conscientious about who I'm allowing into that group. And so just know that that is something that I'm a really big fan of, sacred and safe containers. And so that's what we're creating there. And as always, I love your questions, I love your insights, I love your likes, your loves, your shares, and let me know if you have any other questions. I do these lives every week right now, so just really fun to see you guys here. Thanks so much for joining, and I hope you have a wonderful day or evening wherever you are. Lots of love. Mwah.